at a public meeting recently where it was far too big a room for there to be no public address system. It wasn't working properly. No loop system, they hadn't even considered it. And when they did find a roving mic to get questioners and comments, it was a one that they used badly, and therefore it obscured the lip reading, and we really came away from the meeting having no idea of whether the content was useful or not.
Was to look at the problem that the Aberfoyle Barclayville Health Centre was having, because the governing body, the NOCA Health Board, was removing the funding for one of the doctors, and Aberfoyle particularly felt this, but it also impacted on Barclayville, because the people in Aberfoyle who couldn't get to a doctor came to Barclayville, and therefore that one was fully booked. So I went to this meeting, and the first meeting was pretty hopeless. They had speakers with some sort of PA system, but there was no hearing loop. The PA system was pretty hopeless, and the speakers would insist on putting the microphone just in front of their mouths, so I couldn't lip read. Then they asked for questions from the audience. I, of course, heard nothing whatever what the question was. I had to guess what the question had been, but I couldn't hear the answers either. But this is my usual experience of public meetings. They were really a waste of time.
I find I get very frustrated at meetings and events because I can't always follow what's going on, particularly when there are questions or comments from the audience. I get totally lost, and even the answer doesn't always make sense, or I can't always hear it. The other bugbear is people who refuse to use the microphone if there's one there. I get really annoyed with that. And my last one is I have a hearing assistance dog, and people really do not understand that when they've got the jackets on, you ignore them. So that can cause real problems with people trying to talk to the dog.
I'd like to tell you about an experience where I went to Alloa Town Hall, and an event was put on because of the closure of Dr. Sterling's practice. And the community council arranged the audio equipment, but it was very inadequate and often not used by the speakers. And throughout the event, on many occasions, my blood pressure rose considerably because we couldn't hear what we were being told, and we certainly couldn't hear the questions from the floor. And I found myself jumping up time and time again to say, I didn't hear that. Please, can you speak into the loudspeakers or into the microphones? And I expected after a while that people on the floor and the audience would actually begin to find me an irritant. But as I looked around me, I found very positive people looking at me for support because I was the only person speaking for them. My fear is the next time they have another public meeting, they'll do just the same, and they won't make sure that the people in the audience can hear and understand.
Before I go to a meeting or an event that I'm really looking forward to or wanting to attend, I get so anxious and worried about not being able to cope, being excluded, not understanding the message, wanting to be involved but just not being able to. And I feel like I can sometimes leave feeling worse than when I arrived, and not feeling like I've kind of taken home what I wanted to from that experience, and just feeling generally down about my ability to cope. And it makes me feel like, what would I do in the workforce if I had to go to an event or a meeting and actually perform and be asked questions? I just feel like I would fail at that. It just is such a self-esteem issue and confidence problem. So yeah.